Dear students, welcome to my classroom of research methodology. First, I would like to say that this is the 22nd module of our lecture series. Already you have got an impression of research methodology. Especially, we are talking about the various techniques of research which we follow in history. And it helps us to write historiography. What is historiography? As you have already got an exposure of historiography, that is, the art of writing history. When we talk on the art of writing history, there are various components which help us to write history. Here we can go for the official documents, we can go for the literature, and when we talk on the literature, definitely memoirs or autobiographies play an important role. If I talk about autobiography or the autobiographies of the eminent personalities which are very much precious to understand their times, the moments, their lives, and how they contributed for constructing history. I might say that if I would like to start with Babar Rama, yes, the memoir of the founder of the Mughal Empire, his experiences, what he had in Central Asia, and when he came to India for the first time, what he explored. If I continue that tradition, then definitely one more autobiography which was written in modern India before independence grabbed our attention. What is autobiography? Autobiography means when you are discovering yourself, you are exploring yourself, and you are trying to depict all these in the written manner, and you are getting engrossed in the world of letters. Autobiography is the self-reflection or the self-portrayal of a person. From that perspective, the autobiography of Mohandas K Gandhi, or the father of nation, is very important for us. Through his autobiography, we are not getting an exposure to his ideologies, to his political ideas, but also how he tried to transform the society with the tool or weapon of truth and non-violence. That's why the title of his autobiography is My Experiments with Truth. Now you can ask me the question, how can we situate my experiments with truth in the field of research methodology in history? It's a kind of literature review that will enable you to understand the literary techniques and his critical thinking which he used to write this classic, which perhaps is helping us to understand his mind. And this mind mapping is very much important to know the history of psyche or mentality, where we can apply various research methods. This autobiography or the autobiographies are the important source to know the mind of the people. And when we are trying to explore the minds, definitely here we can apply various research methods to do the same. If I can give you an example of what Freud once stated. He stated that the evolution of the human civilization is based on the unconscious behavior of the human beings. Isn't it amazing to pretend that the growth and development of civilization is something which is the reflection of our unknown behavior? Yes, I found it very interesting. And from that perspective, I think we should discover, we should explore, we should revisit My Experiments with Truth by Gandhi. And it was published in the weekly journal Navjivan from 1925 to 1929. His friend Swami Anand inspired him to write the memoir, where Gandhi tried to examine or assess his ideas. In 1948, we got the English edition of My Experiments with Truth. According to the social scientists, it is one of the best books which help us to understand spirituality. It can be regarded as one of the best books on the subject of spirituality. It can be a book which is based on his understanding of divinity, religiosity, spirituality, and his practical wisdom for understanding or for having an idea of politics. That means what was going on at that time and how to prevent bloodshed, how to prevent violence. That's why, with the help of the tool of truth, he wanted to attain ahimsa or non-violence. So it was a path or his journey through which he wanted to achieve something immortal. And that was definitely the celebration of one's self or the celebration of ahimsa or non-violence, through which we could be able to satisfy the age-old religious requirements of our Indian value and tradition, where we give emphasis on peace, harmony, and fraternity. As per our Indian philosophy, we give emphasis on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That means the entire world is our family. From that perspective, we should say, My Experiments with Truth perhaps was trying to identify how can we make this world as our family by eliminating violence and spread the message of love with the aid of Shottagruho or the inquisitiveness towards achieving or attaining truth. And that is something which can be termed as the essence of Gandhi's political as well as the spiritual philosophy. My Experiments with Truth is an autobiography which talks about his life and the various phases of his life which made him more equipped to understand or to judge the reality, or to be pragmatic, or to be wise. That's why Louis Fisher once stated that his autobiography is something which is the reflection of one man's daily life. That means the events which he witnessed in his course of life, the characters which were very important in his journey of life were also being mentioned in this autobiography. His wife, his relatives, and the politicians. I'm talking about the Indian nationalists who helped him to have an idea about the existing situation. Now I would like to say few words about his life, or would like to give you a brief sketch of the events of his life, which were also a part of his memoir, My Experiments with Truth. He was born in the year 1869 on 2nd October in Gujarat at Porbandar. He got higher education. He belonged from the caste of Bania. He was from a well-off family. He spent 21 years of his life in South Africa, where he practiced as a barrister. There he witnessed one of the greatest social vices of the human civilizations ever. I'm talking about the racial discrimination or the racism, which was very much common in the ancient days and also in the medieval period and also in the modern world. We need to research more on racism, like why the color of the people gets utmost importance to judge or to value his or her position in the society. And I must say, in the modern world, still we have that social malady very much pertinent, though in a subtle manner. Why I am saying these two contradictory words together? Why I am saying it's very much and also it's subtle? Because during the time of Corona, we find that how in US people, they became very much hostile against the racist attitudes of the white men, and the blacks, they gave the slogan along with the white activists, that is Black Lives Matter. So this is something which he experienced in South Africa, the racial discrimination or the racism, how the whites, they used to torture, used to deprive, used to humiliate the people who were black or who were known as colored. Later on, Nelson Mandela, who was one of the greatest political personalities of the present times, he expressed his gratitude to Mahatma Gandhi, because how he initiated, I'm talking about Mahatma, that how he initiated the movement against racism in South Africa, that perhaps set an example for others. When he came back to India, it was a time when we had noticed a power vacuum in the field of political leadership. The INA was that time perhaps a failed organization because the moderate or the English educated politicians, they failed to make their position meaningful in the society, and also they were unsuccessful to fulfill their demands. It was a time when we witnessed the rise and growth of militant nationalism. Too much of bloodshed and violence was everywhere, which was affecting the young generation, and that was very much understood by Gandhi. That's why he thought to have something unique in the field of politics. That was his strategy of non-violence or Satyagraha. And that was a huge success which made people his followers. He became Bapu or father in the eyes of many. It was just the beginning, and later on he contributed to a great extent for the India which emerged as a free nation. Though the independence came at the cost of the partition of the Indian subcontinent. Gandhi was very much against of that partition, but to avoid the communal violence, he had no other option. In 1948, he was assassinated by Nathuram Godse. This is the story of his life, and some of the glimpses of the events were also mentioned in his autobiography, My Experiments with Truth. I just want to add certain points before ending my lecture, that what made him to write his autobiography, My Experiments with Truth. Here I would like to say, a friend had his doubts when Gandhi expressed his idea to write his autobiography and asked him, I quote, "What has set you on this adventure?" Question mark. Writing an autobiography is a practice peculiar to the West. I know of nobody in the East having written one, except amongst those who have come under Western influence. And what will you write, supposing you reject tomorrow the things you hold as principles today, or supposing you revise in the future your plans of today? Is it not likely that the men who shape their conduct on the authority of your word, spoken or written, may be misled? Gandhi gave an answer to this query. According to him, I quote, "It is not my purpose to attempt a real autobiography. I simply want to tell the story of my numerous experiments with truth, and as my life consists of nothing but those experiments, it is true that the story will take the shape of an autobiography. I believed that a connected account of all these experiments will not be without benefit to the reader." So what he wanted to write was something that where he thought to gift the future generation a political ideology or strategy where his experiments with truth were mentioned, that might help others to formulate or to originate the ideologies similarly, or might help them to think about peace. So it is something very much spiritual, philosophical and political as well, because peace is needed everywhere. That is the essence of having a good life, which is also very much common or mentioned in the scriptures of Hindu religion. Even in all religions, we talk peace. It is something where we can also apply various methods to make others happy. So this is something very much related with our daily life. It is related with mindfulness. So from this perspective, I must say that in Gandhi, we find a person who had various layers of thoughts, and he was not only a political personality, also very much spiritual and religious. With this regard, like what was his philosophical and spiritual understanding of life, I would like to quote from Farewell. That is the last part of his autobiography, My Experiments with Truth. I may quote, "To see the universal and all pervading spirit of truth face to face, one must be able to love the meanest of creation as oneself. And a man who aspires after that cannot afford to keep out of any field of life. That is why my devotion to truth has drawn me into the field of politics. And I can say without the slightest hesitation, and yet in all humility, that those who say that religion has nothing to do with politics do not know what religion means." Dear students, what I am trying to mean, like that we are hesitant to link religion with politics because we are very much scared of communal violence. And communal violence is something which is a burning issue. And communal violence made the partition of India inevitable. But what Gandhi was trying to say through his My Experiments with Truth, that perhaps we are not trying to understand or trying to know the essence of religion, which talks peace and non-violence. And that is the objective of all the religions. Because we are unaware of the religious values and ethics, that's why we are communals. But he was trying to experiment with his religious thoughts, where his tools were non-violence and cooperation. He talked harmony. He talked fraternity. Perhaps he believed in that concept which I had mentioned in the beginning of my lecture, that is, the entire world is our family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And he was also trying to harp on Gita, the religious book which is highly philosophical and political. That in Gita also we find a kind of idea which is talking for salvation or indifference. So that indifference or that indifferent attitude definitely important for us to accept the reality, so that we should not react, we should control our instincts or our indriyas. I would like to end with one more quote which is very much what I can say relevant to end my lecture, and I also feel the same. According to Bishop Frederick B. Fisher, here is an autobiography more captivating than fiction and a more revealing study of the human soul than I have ever read. And also I would like to mention another statement by one more eminent personalities. His name was Patrick Lawrence, and there were others also like who echoed the same. They were Pollock and Brailsford. According to them, it ranks high among the world's great books written in prison. In the frankness of its self-revelation, it recalls Rousseau's Confessions. It would be hard to say which part of it makes the more fascinating reading. The early chapters which describe his school days, his adolescence, his marriage, and his life as a student in London, or the absorbing narrative of his moral development and his struggle in South Africa. That story could not have been better told, and our only regret is that his account of his doings after his return to India is slighter. In this book, Gandhi will live for posterity as the noblest and bravest character of our time. So I would like to end with this note, and I think it justifies my entire lecture. Thank you.